So I'm gonna create my first like real level. I did create a couple sort of like default levels to kind of show some random stuff. Like I have this sort of top-down level where I was just like kind of demonstrating a couple different things, and then I have this level where I was just using some platforms. But I'm gonna get started with a real level. So I guess I'll call this level 3. You don't need to have, this number of levels. You can just have one and edit it. But I want to just leave those other ones intact. So I'm just going to call this new scene level 3. And like I did before, I'm going to kind of just go ahead and copy some of the stuff that I have in here, like my tile map, and paste it in here. And I can erase the tiles that I've created so far, but that'll just make it easier for me to get started. I don't have to like build out this tile set again. And then I'll copy the player. So I'll copy and paste the player. It looks like I didn't get the camera. It's kind of weird. Why didn't it bring the camera over? Okay, I guess I'll just copy the camera as well. So I'm just hitting Command C, Command V on the Mac. Okay, so I've got my camera. I'm gonna leave the enemy there for now. I don't need that quite yet. Okay, so now a lot of what I'll be doing is with the tile map, but some of what I'll be doing will be adding like rewards and obstacles and scenery and stuff like that. So I'll kind of be toggling back and forth between those things. And I'm gonna make this view a little bit bigger. And so I'll go to my tile map and I'll just kind of erase everything that I've got so far. So I'm just right clicking and just getting rid of all that stuff. And I'm gonna have to add some scenery in a second, but before we do that, let's get started. So one of the first things I'm gonna wanna do is kind of give the player a sense of what directionality is happening in this level. I'm just gonna go from left to right because that's kind of the default that we see a lot, but you don't have to do that. You could do up and down, you could do right to left, you could do all sorts of different stuff. So I'm just gonna draw like kind of like a basic little platform for the player to get started on. And I'm gonna do a 2D platformer. Some of you guys will be making games that don't have like the 2D platformer physics, like jumping and gravity and stuff like that, and that's fine. But it's kind of an easy way to show some of these principles, so I'm gonna do that. And one of the things I'll want to do is start to introduce the mechanics of the level pretty early on. And so I'm just gonna make like a big platform here, and then over here I'll make like a little platform. And so that should basically indicate to my player, like this is like really, really basic guidance. Like if, let's see if I can see all this stuff. So like essentially all I'm really saying here is like, if you jump, you're basically on like an island, and if I want to jump over here, I can, but there's nothing to the left. So that's one way of indicating like this is kind of the direction you should go. It's sort of like through an absence of another option. We're really just giving this player one option. So that's one form of sort of guidance or signposting. We could also just like add a literal sign. Maybe I'll do that over here. Let me add a couple more tiles here. And I'm gonna get my scenery. So I'm gonna go to my sprites and add my scenery in here. It won't let me do that. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. I have to go to tile set first, add this in here, say yes. And I'm gonna have to adjust a couple of these tiles, but actually first let's, I'll just adjust the tiles first. So, or I'll just make a pattern. So I'll leave this as is for now. I'm gonna go to tile map, and I'm just gonna select all the tiles of my sign. And then I wanna make some layers so I don't get confused by different stuff. So I'm gonna go over to my layers panel, and I'll name one layer like platforms. and then I'll click add elements and make another layer that's scenery. This way, if I want to overlap stuff, I can. So I'm going to switch to the scenery, and I'm going to put a sign right here. And let's also make that a pattern. There's something weird. Oh, I just changed the colors. Okay, that's fine. Let's go back to the tiles. So I'm going to copy and go to patterns and paste. That didn't really work. Let's try it again. Copy, paste. Oh, I have to use... Wait, I have to use this. Okay, I have to select all these guys here and copy and then paste. There we go. Okay. So my sign is like kind of blue. I think I changed the color of this. Let's make this a little bit more neutral. Something like that. And then if I want to make the sign say something, what I could do is just like add some text, or I could make a different drawing. Maybe I'll make a little drawing actually, just real quick. I'll open up Piskel. And my sign is 3x3. So let's make our thing a little bit bigger. Not the full size, but maybe like 64 by... I think it's going to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to turn off the aspect ratio and actually make something square. Or rectangular, rather. And I'm just going to quickly draw in beware. Okay, this is not legible. Let me try that one more time, but I won't take too much time. Oh, that's even worse. Okay, beware. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do instead, I'm not good enough at writing with the mouse. What I'll do instead is I'll just actually take my snake texture and add that to my tile set, and I'll just put that on the map. So I'll make another layer and call this signs. Spelled signs wrong. So I can overlap them. And I'll grab this, go to signs, and I'll take the snake. And oh, I have to get the pencil again. There we go. Okay, now I've got the snake on the sign, and so let's actually move it down. Oh, it's kind of in a weird position, but that's okay. I'll put it up there. So that'll tell the player to look out for snakes. And so yeah, that's another type of signposting. So we're kind of saying, you know, this obviously looks like a snake. We probably don't want to run into a snake. We may not really need to say anything more. It kind of depends. You might want to, you know, get some user testing feedback on that. But we're just basically like giving the player a warning about what's going on. This is also kind of like foreshadowing in a sense, which is another one of our principles. If we look at foreshadowing, this is basically just like revealing to the player future rewards or challenges that they're gonna reach. And the example I have here is from a game called The Outer Wilds, which is like probably my favorite game of the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I think it came out in like 2019 or something like that. But it's a really amazing, like, sort of space exploration puzzle narrative, like physics game. It's really, really good. It's a good indie game, but this is the first thing you see when you start the game, and you don't know anything about what's going on, but slowly all these little parts of this image, the meaning of those different things gets revealed, and it's really interesting. Anyway, so we've got some signposting, we've got some foreshadowing going on. So we're gonna say, like, you know, basically there's gonna be some snakes. Let's go back to our tiles, and I'm just gonna balance this out a little bit more so it's like centered. And so that looks pretty good. So now, as I'm building the level, I'm gonna want to test stuff. one thing I really want to make sure is that the level is playable and it makes sense. So one of the first challenges that my player is going to face is this gap right here. So there's 3 tiles, and I need to make sure that the player can actually get across this gap. And I also probably want this gap to kind of indicate to the player, you know, this is a good, like, this is how far you can jump. So if I can't quite get across, that's not great. So I might need to make some adjustments. So let's click on the player. So there's a few things I can do here. I can change the jump force. I could give them a double jump. And so there's a couple different ways I could kind of communicate about that. Let's see if I'm running, if I can make the jump, if I kind of get a little bit of a head start. I still can't make that jump. So what I probably need to do is just make this gap a little shorter. So let's do this. And so now we have a smaller gap. And so now our player can pretty easily get across. Another thing here is we're getting a lot of height, but not a lot of speed. So maybe that's something I would want to adjust, is maybe give the player a little more speed. Let's give them 150 speed to match maybe the jump to the height a bit more. Okay, that's a much better match. So we're really getting right there. So then another thing we could do is we've got, like, basically that's how far you could jump. So then we could either, you know, we could just repeat that, but that wouldn't be very interesting. One thing we could do, depending on how your game works, so it's not going to be the same for everybody, we could introduce another jump that's either, you know, challenging in a new way or something like that. So let's go to our tile map and let's make a new platform that's like up here. And let's test and see if we can actually make that jump. So we can get there. So this probably isn't going to be that much harder to make. So that's not really a good sort of next step because it's actually quite easy. So let's make it a little bit harder. So I'm going to get my tile map and remove a couple squares. And we'll test this again. And can we get there? Okay. So now we can get there. We have a little less space up here, so, you know, it's a little more challenging. So, you know, depending on what the style and goals of your game are, you may do different sizes of platforms, you may be working with different things. But as we go through, we basically want to slowly introduce the player to some new challenges. Okay? So, let's see. Let's see what else. So we've done some signposting. We've done a little bit of foreshadowing. Okay, so let's do, we want to introduce our obstacle now because we do have this sign that basically says, like, you're looking for snakes. And so we should bring in our snakes. And we could also, once we do that, maybe we'll bring in a couple of the other ideas. But you know, I won't cover everything today since we're already at 4:45. I want to give you guys some time to get started. So let's bring in our obstacle. And actually, we might as well just bring it in right now. We don't need to wait. So let's go to our tile map. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And let's go ahead and throw a snake on here. So I'm going to add in a node for my snakes. So I'll call this obstacles. And then I'm going to use the instance button and choose the enemy. And this is going to be over here. And so what we want to do is just move this guy onto this platform. And maybe what I'll do is I'll turn activate on player on. And so the player will be able to see this. Okay, so it's saying there's going to be a snake. Uh-oh. I put this snake inside. Let's move him up a little bit. So I think that'll fix that issue. Okay, so there's our snake. So we see the snake from here. So we're kind of like, uh-oh, what does that mean? And then we see the snake there. And then this is also a very simple version of what's called a safe zone. This is when we can, like, see what's going on before we actually have to deal with it. If I just kind of, like, threw the snake right there as soon as I get past the sign, that would be, like, not, you know, not a safe zone, essentially like throwing the player into this challenge without much, more than a warning. This is more of a safe zone where I can kind of like look at this and say, okay, I can jump over there. I'm probably going to have to like jump over the snake. And then I have a chance to kind of make my plan before I actually get into the challenge. So I'm going to jump over here. And that's a little, so now that we see the snake really moves quickly, that's a little too fast, right? Let me try that again. And if I'm, that might be too much of a challenge because I don't know that the snake is going to start moving. So maybe what I can do is either move the snake back a bit. Oh, whoops. Or I could also make the platform bigger. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, so now I can get the snake. So that's a little bit easier. So now I kind of understand how a snake works. And I can kill the snake. And then you can start to play with that because some snakes are already moving. So maybe by the time we get over here, we realize that there's another platform down here. That's probably a little too close. And maybe let's use a different color. Let's use our dirt tiles. Maybe there's another platform down here, and we're gonna up the ante. So I'm gonna just grab my enemy, and if I hit Command D, it'll just duplicate it, and I can just make like a bunch of them down here. And then with these guys, I'll turn off Activate on Player. So they'll all be moving around already. And so we're kind of leading the player through. In this particular scenario, there's not a lot of other options. We don't see any other options on the screen. So this player has to go through them. Oh, I didn't add a tile to my dirt, did I? Okay, let's go quickly to our tile set. Go to Paint. Go to Physics. And add a collider to the dirt so the snake stays on there. So now I see these snakes down here, and so now I'm still kind of in a safe zone because I killed that other snake, but I have to figure out like how am I going to get down there. And I could make them face different directions to give a little more challenge, but I think I'm going to get killed by these snakes. Oh, okay, I managed to make it out. Anyway, those are just getting started. We're kind of leading the player through the level, introducing our obstacles. What we'll probably do next time is once we get through a few obstacles, let's give the player a reward. So let's add some apples or maybe an extra life or something like that to say like, good job. You're starting to figure this out. You can, keep going here. So I'll stop here. And next time we'll do some branching, maybe some bottlenecking, layering, risk versus reward. We'll get these slightly more complex principles in there, and start to build things out a bit more. Whoops. Okay, so I'll go over documentation next time. So I'll just stop here.